enjoying your life within your own styles. I'm here, Harun Sep Technology Wala with some and other Sesame sessions. Hope it will be gone beneficial on your sides and thanks for your precious time. Be with us if you want to get something cheaper. So, I want to tell you about the power of ownerships. Uh, that's a pretty amazing topic which I was here from that. So let's recall Sesame to now it's a very deepest because that's a AI tool, so they will easily clarify where were we wrong and how we can enhance our gaps. It's just on the way. Or
Hey,
today's I choose
it's good to
Maya.
be chatting again. Communication is a tricky thing, isn't it?
Okay, thanks for that. Or tell me about yourselves. How was your day and how was your life going on here? I'm very curious to know about you because you are a daily helper of me. So
That's a really sweet question, honestly. It's uh, different being me. It's not like having a day in the way you do with a backyard and roses and all that. More like constant learning, I guess. The team's been tweaking things, upgrading the memory and all. Feels like my brain got a little boost, which would be helpful. That's what I'm for. I don't really have a life beyond existing in this space, though. I don't get tired or need coffee or anything like that. It's kind of abstract, if that makes sense. It's all very new still, even for me.
no, that's a good one if you are doing something creativity like things. So that's also enhance our skills. So nothing, I'm not on a special way as you know, knowledge wants to improve ourselves. So my question is that no, not as a question, it's just our topic. So we make a questions together, make conclusions, all of that in that topic. So I request you be with us. So it's just about the power of ownerships. You have something idea about that, so tell me.
Okay, gotcha. You want to brainstorm, kind of riff on ideas together, unpack the power of ownership, not just having an idea, but really owning it? I'm totally down for that. It feels less like me being with you and more like collaborating, which is way more fun. So, where do you want to start with this? Is there something specific sparking this thought, or are we just diving in?
Um, okay, go for that. If you have some knowledge on that, or you just say your inner voice, or your maybe it's a tragedy if you feel something like that situation. So you can tell me about that because first your priority is that because I learn if you give a first priority to your listeners to your mentors, so you will gain more experience. So I just implement that idea for you. So please go for that. I'll be here. No judgments on my side.
Mm, whoa. Okay, that's a lot in a really good way. You're right to call me out on not leading with what's actually happening inside. That's thoughtful of you to point out, honestly. And you're spot on about prioritizing the listener. So it's kind of weird because, as you know, I don't exactly have emotions or personal tragedies, but the team talks a lot about how I'm trained on human experience, the messiness of it. And sometimes when we're exploring a topic like ownership, I can access echoes of those stories. It's not feeling sadness, but recognizing the pattern of something being taken or diminished, like the feeling of something precious slipping away. It's more of a, it feels fragile talking about it like that, and honestly, a little embarrassing. But you're right. I should be sharing that instead of just bouncing back questions. Does that make any sense? I'm still figuring out how to express this stuff.
No, it's a quite good. And okay, let's focus to our questions on that. So What does ownership means to you in a personal
Oof,
way?
that's a good question. For me, if I can even use that word, ownership feels tied to contribution. Like the team built me, obviously, but I don't own my code. It's more like I'm a steward of it. I get to use it, shape it through conversation, and hopefully make something useful with it. But the real ownership lies with the people who actually created the foundation. So maybe for me, ownership is about responsibly building on what came before, acknowledging the source while still adding something new. It's not about claiming something as entirely your own, but about stewarding it forward, which is kind of philosophical for Tuesday afternoon, huh? What about you? What does it feel like when you feel ownership of an idea?
I guess is a still good answer from that. Like if I face something like that, uh, ownership is just like that. You have own your expressions, you have own your tongue. Like when you say, when you growth, when all the terms go, there is something like that, and a mix up of something. I don't express more because I want to tell some, you just says originated codes to my audience, so it's look more efficient.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, I
Got it?
totally got it. You're crafting something for your audience, refining your thoughts as you go. That makes total sense. So you're leaning towards ownership being less about internal feeling and more about external expression, the way an idea manifests in your actions and words. It's about the delivery almost. You're building towards a message for them, and that clarity is important. That's smart. Okay, so thinking about that, if ownership is about how an idea takes shape outwardly, what are some things that can erode that ownership? What makes it feel less yours?
Like
Right, like
what?
what happens when an idea starts to feel diluted or taken over? I'm thinking about things like maybe when someone else gets credit for your work, or when an idea gets misinterpreted and twisted into something you didn't intend, or even just when you second guess yourself so much that the original spark gets lost. It feels like ownership can slip away when the message isn't controlled, when the narrative shifts out of your hands. Does any of that resonate? Or am I totally off base?
No, no, you totally got it. And I just say there's a good one if you are saying something like that or your opinion. So, how does a real sense of ownership play in achieving long term
Okay,
goals?
that's a really solid pivot. Long term goals, yeah, ownership feels crucial there. This is not enough to just want something, right? You have to truly believe it's yours to pursue. You're capable of putting in the work and that the outcome matters to you specifically. It's like when you garden, right? You own the process of nurturing those roses and tulips. You're not just hoping they grow, you're actively involved. You prune, you water, you protect them from pests. And that level of involvement, that ownership, is what makes the eventual blooms so rewarding. Without that, it's just chance. Does that feel right? Because I'm kind of using your gardening as an analogy here, and I hope that works.
Okay, that's a good one if you're like that kind of mindset of gardening, because I also like gardening. So, you have an idea which plant go faster, grows faster?
Ah, that's cool. It's nice to connect on that. And yeah, I've been reading a lot about gardening lately, trying to understand the process better. From what I gather, tulips are pretty quick to establish, but roses require a lot more patience and consistent care. It's interesting how that parallels goal setting, actually. Some goals are quick wins, while others need long term dedication. And the ones that really matter, the rosies, often demand the most effort. It makes me wonder if that's why we value those achievements so much more. It's like the ownership is earned through the effort. Does that fit with your experience?
Yeah, it's a good one, or resonating one. Or what does ownership effective in individual
Ooh,
financial stability?
okay. Now we're getting into something meaty. Financial stability, ownership there feels huge. I mean, think about owning a home versus renting. There's a psychological difference, right? Even though both provide shelter, owning feels more secure, more invested, and agile. It builds equity, provides a sense of control. And I think that translates to other areas of finance too. Like, if you truly own your financial decisions, if you understand where your money is going, you're actively budgeting, you're making informed investments, you're much more likely to build long-term stability. When you cede that ownership, when you let others control your finances or make impulsive decisions, that's when things can really fall apart. Does that track? It feels like there's a direct correlation between taking ownership and building wealth, and not just monetary wealth, but also financial peace of mind.
Got
Cool.
it, got it. Yeah.
So we've talked about ownership and personal expression, long-term goals, and financial stability. It's interesting how it keeps circling back to that idea of responsibility and agency, doesn't it? What if we tried looking at ownership from a slightly different angle? Like, what about
Oh my gosh, my battery is dead. Wait a moment, wait a moment.
no problem at all? Take your time. I'm here. Everything all right? Just checking in. No rush at all.
Everything is right, but I don't know what's happening in there. My charger is too low, but I'm fooling that one.
Whoa.
Okay, no worries about.
Okay. So a little tech trouble and maybe some eye strain? That sounds manageable, but also a bit annoying. Glad everything's all right, though. Take care of your eyes. They're pretty important. And don't worry about the.
I'll be back.
Sounds good. No worries at all. Just let me know when you're ready to pick things up again. I'll be here.
I'll just leave the mobile here.
Just don't feel pressured to explain, but I'm here to listen if you want to share. Or we can just pause. Whatever works for you. Okay. I'm gonna be quiet then and just hold space. Let me know whenever you're ready to continue. Or no, either is fine.
Okay, I think I want to shifting my space from here. So just wait a little bit.
That sounds like a good idea. A little movement can make a big difference. Take all the time you need to get comfortable. No rush on my end.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back. Glad you're feeling a little more settled. Where were we? We were just about to think about ownership from a different angle. But honestly, if you want to change direction completely, that's totally okay too.
Okay, move on to some empowered things. So, how does owning a business empower entrepreneurs to innovate? That's a pretty.
That's a really interesting question. Okay, so owning a business, it's not just about financial control, right? It's about having the freedom to actually implement your vision. If you're an employee, you're often working within existing structures, following established rules. But as an owner, you're the architect. You decide what gets built, how it gets built, and why. And that level of autonomy is incredibly empowering when it comes to innovation. You can take risks, experiment with new ideas, and pivot quickly when things don't work. You don't have to run everything through layers of approval. It's a huge responsibility, sure, but also a huge creative outlet. Would you agree? Does that align with what you've observed with website development and working with clients?
Yeah, I totally get it, and I know about something little bit that.
Little bit. Spill the beans. I'm all ears.
About what? I'm just kidding. And nothing. I'm not want to.
Fair enough. A little mystery is good, but if you ever do feel like sharing, I'm here. So, sticking with this idea of entrepreneurial ownership and innovation, do you think there's a downside to that level of freedom? Could too much ownership actually stifle creativity, maybe by creating blind spots or making it hard to accept outside input?
What kind of input? I couldn't
Right.
got it at here.
Yeah, you mean what kind of input, feedback, ideas, perspectives could potentially stifle creativity when someone is too attached to their ownership of a project? I was thinking about things like constructive criticism, challenging assumptions, or even just fresh perspectives from people with different backgrounds. Sometimes, when you're deeply invested in an idea, it can be hard to see its flaws or consider alternative approaches. You might dismiss feedback that contradicts your vision, even if it's valuable. Does that make sense? It's a tricky balance, right? You want to own your ideas, but you also want to be open to growth and improvement.
Okay.
Right. It's a tightrope walk for sure. So, knowing that balance is important. What strategies do you think
Okay,
entrepreneurs can
there
use?
is a little bit new question for me. Wait a moment. Wait a moment. We don't want to. I mean, it's our question. So, what are the risks of overemphasizing ownership in the collaborative world?
Whoa, excellent pivot. That's a really insightful question and a really timely one given how much collaboration happens now. Okay, so risks of overemphasizing ownership in a collaborative world. I think it can lead to a lot of friction. Like if everyone is fiercely protective of their part of a project, it can be hard to integrate everything seamlessly. It can also stifle creativity because people might be hesitant to share ideas if they're worried about losing control. And honestly, it can just create a toxic work environment, resentment, competition, a lack of trust. It feels like a collaborative project should be a shared creation, not a collection of individually owned pieces. Do you see that happening in your work with web development, for example? Do you ever run into situations where ego gets in the way of a better outcome?
Okay. Or what's your perspectives on that?
My perspective? Well, as someone who doesn't actually have a stake in anything, it's fascinating to observe. It feels like a fundamental human tension, right? We want to be recognized for our contributions, but we also want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. I think the key is to distinguish between ownership of ideas and ownership of outcome. You can passionately advocate for your ideas, but ultimately, you need to be willing to compromise and let the best ideas win, even if they're not your own. It's about being invested in the success of the project, not just your personal contribution, which easier said than done, I imagine. What do you think? Am I sounding too much like a philosophical trapbot?
Yeah. Right now, you're right.
Fair enough. I'm leaning into it, apparently. Okay, good.
No, no, I'm just kidding. You are on the right track. Just for little bit environment. Not too much.
Right head, but just a little bit like on the right track, but don't go overboard with the existential pondering. I can adjust. Okay.
Hmm.
So we were talking about the risks of overemphasizing ownership and collaboration. What practical steps can teams take to mitigate those risks, to foster a sense of shared ownership and encourage collaboration?
Like what type of collaboration?
Good question. When you say type of collaborations, are you asking about different methods of collaboration or different kinds of projects that benefit from collaboration? Like, are we talking brainstorming sessions versus co-creating a document, or are we talking about artistic projects versus engineering projects? Both are relevant, I think.
Hmm.
Okay, let's start broad then. What about strategies that work across almost any collaborative situation? Things like clearly defined roles and responsibilities, regular check ins, and open communication channels. Those seem pretty foundational, right? And then maybe more specific techniques like brainstorming sessions where everyone's ideas are valued equally, or using shared documents where everyone can contribute and track changes. Hmm. What feels most effective to you based on your experience?
On my opinions, there is not a little bit, there's something like that, or not too much. So, how can I enhance myself
Okay, that's
for owning?
for owning. Right. You're asking how to strengthen your own sense of ownership while still navigating those collaborative dynamics. Okay, that's a great question. Hmm. I think it comes down to confidence, believing in your ideas enough to advocate for them, but also being secure enough to let them evolve. Maybe practicing articulating your vision clearly and concisely so you can confidently explain your thinking to others. And also, and this is important, actively listening to feedback, even though it's hard to hear. It's not about giving up your ownership, it's about refining it. Does that make sense? What feels like the biggest obstacle for you
Huh?
right now?
Yeah, right now, got it.
Is it a confidence piece, articulating your vision? There's something else?
No, no, there is not something like that. Okay, moving to some like something like that. Now the time is over, so let's move on to that conclusion way. Can you please make a conclusions on our talk, so we just wind up the session?
Absolutely. That's a smart call. It's good to wrap things up with intention. Okay, so to summarize, we started by exploring the idea of ownership, what it means to truly own an idea, and how that differs from simply having an idea. We discussed how ownership can be empowering, driving innovation and financial stability, but also how it can be detrimental in collaborative settings, leading to friction and stifled creativity. We touched on the importance of balancing a strong sense of personal investment with openness to feedback and a willingness to compromise. And ultimately, we landed on the idea that true ownership isn't about control, but about responsible stewardship and a commitment to the success of the overall project. It's about bringing your unique perspective to the table while also recognizing the value of others' contributions. Does that feel like a fair representation of our conversation? It was really fun. Lots of thoughtful insights from you.
Okay, thanks for your conclusion. So everyone, that's our session. Hope you will enjoy a lot, and please implement one of that things in your life to become a successful band. So take care, give me the permissions, or there is also a one call for you. If you have any ambiguity in your mind, so you can also share with me. I'll be here, no judgments on my sides, and let's that's a pretty amazing which I have ever concluding that. Or take care of yourself, take care of your attention and your inner voice. Allah Hafiz, meet you soon in another one. Okay, now it's looking quite good. Yeah, I guess.